Edit. So since there is some curiosity regarding the reason why I never specified to my parents how much money I make while offering to help them out, or even why I never told them about it just to let them know how well I was doing for myself, the reason is pretty simple. First and foremost, I really don't like talking about how much money I make. If I'm telling somebody that I make a decent amount of money and I can help them out if they need it, I want them to trust me. Especially if it's my parents, because why would I lie to them about having enough money to help them out financially? And I know a lot of people measure success by how much money they have made, but I really don't do that. To myself, I am just as successful now as I was when I first started out, because back then, I had been successful in going after my dreams against all the odds, and even now, I'm doing well for myself. So the definition of success for me is not money, and I wanted my parents to be proud of me because I was successful and happy with what I was doing, not just because I was rich. I don't know how to explain it well, but I just don't think that being rich and being successful can be used interchangeably, at least not for me. Besides, it didn't even occur to me that I would need to specify exactly how much money I made to my parents in order to win them over. I guess I've always been a bit delusional about them. I thought that they would treat me just like they treated my brother some point, but that never ended up happening, and that's why we're all here right now. Anyway, since you guys wanted a reason as to why I never told my parents about my exact income, this was why. I did speak about it with my cousin before any of this, and she told me that I shouldn't have had to tell my parents how much money I make for them to treat me like their child, and I didn't do anything wrong, so that was a huge relief for me because at least somebody is on my side here. And I also know for a fact that my aunt is also in agreement with my cousin, but then, it's just the fact that my brother had been neutral so far, and now, all of a sudden, even he is against me, so that's what's actually bugging me right now. But I still haven't made up my mind about whether I should feel sorry about it or not, so I'm still open to any advice that you guys have for me. Update 1. Hi. Thank you for all the comments. Going through them was a real eye-opener for me. And I guess I really needed that because I had actually begun to consider that maybe I was wrong here, but I don't think I'm anymore. I blocked my brother as well because I realized that, even though he had been neutral so far, that hadn't helped me at all. Even though he had never stood up for me, my cousin had. My aunt hadn't. Truthfully speaking, the only reason he is standing with my parents right now is because my parents have never given him a reason to stand against them. But I have several, that's for sure. Before I blocked him, I replied to him and told him that I really appreciated the fact that he was going out of his way to defend our parents, but he did not grow up in the same home. The parents that he knows are very different from the parents that I know, and he will never be able to realize what I have been through. So it's really unfair of him to say that whether I like it or not, my parents have raised me and I owe it to them to help them out right now. I absolutely don't owe it to them because whatever they did for me before I turned 18 was required of them by the law. So it's not like doing me some huge favor by taking care of me, and as soon as I was not a minor anymore, I ended up leaving home to fulfill my dreams, and after that, they didn't even speak to me for the next couple of years, let alone support me. At the time, it was just my aunt who had been there for me. Even my brother hadn't been there for me, it had been my cousin who had been supporting me emotionally throughout. So I can hardly even call them my family because at any stage of my life, they have never even been there for me. If I actually did owe anything to anyone, it would be my aunt. As for the fact that he has been supporting our parents on his own for the past couple of years, that's really not my fault because it's not like I hadn't offered. But then, they had snubbed me, and I remembered it because that's what made me cut them out of my life. And so far, they did not seem any worse off for it either. But all of a sudden, now that they know how much I make, they want me to make it up to them, even though they haven't even apologized to me. That's really unfair and entitled of them, and I don't feel the need to put up with it. After sending that message, I did not think that I wanted to speak to them anymore, so I blocked him. Since then, I haven't received any message from them personally, but my aunt did contact me and told me that in that message, since I had mentioned that my aunt had been there for me when my parents hadn't, my brother probably passed that message on to my father, and that's how he found out that my aunt had been supporting me in the beginning. And just as we had expected, he lost his mind over it and has been accusing my aunt of leading me astray. He believes that if my aunt had never supported me and told me to go back to my parents and live by their rules, I never would have gone so far away from them in the first place and our relationship would be much better. I literally do not understand why they would think like this because realistically speaking, if my aunt hadn't helped me out, I still would have found some other way to pursue my dreams, but I wouldn't have given up on them. And if I hadn't been able to become a photographer, I wouldn't have been making so much money and doing so well for myself at a job that I love. Then, I would always resent my parents for never letting me do what I want with my life, and I don't understand why they would think that would improve our relationship. I think that it would make it much worse, but I guess they just need a scapegoat to blame at this point, and that's my aunt right now. They have been messaging her nonstop and have been telling her that if she had been a good sister, She would have told me to go back to my parents instead of encouraging my behavior, and she is the reason I am acting like this right now because my bad behavior has apparently always been rewarded. They have even dragged my cousin into this and said that it's not surprising that my aunt's own daughter has turned out to be so rude and classless, since she clearly cannot be trusted with raising children, all because of the way that my cousin called them out at her party. Basically, my parents are insane right now, and even though my aunt has blocked them, she's sure that they're not gonna let this go because they just want to create a huge deal out of this and pretend to be the victims in a situation that they themselves are responsible for creating. And even after all of this, if my brother still thinks that it's appropriate for him to be standing by our parents, then I really have nothing to say to him. I guess I should have seen it coming because even though he had never treated me badly himself, he never stood up against it either. So maybe it's not that surprising anyway. Update 2. Hi. So it's been 2 weeks since my last update and I don't know why, but my parents decided to go public with this drama. I really don't understand what they're hoping to achieve with it, but in the past couple of days, they've made several posts against me and my aunt. And they've been pushing this one-sided narrative, that apparently my aunt had encouraged me to pursue photography, even though it was an unstable career and they did not want that for me. Later, they tried to make amends with me, but I was the one who pushed them away, and when they asked me to help them out with money recently, I did offer to help, but I made it sound like I did not make enough money, and so they ended up relying on my brother, so they would end up affecting my financial stability. Only recently did they find out the entire truth, and even now, I'm refusing to help them out and putting all the pressure on my brother instead. It's just one-sided and most of it is not even true, but neither my aunt nor I want to engage with them on social media, so we've been trying to text them in person and get them to take it down, and I've even told them that I'll take this up with a lawyer if they don't do as I say. But I guess they can tell that I'm bluffing because obviously nobody's gonna waste their resources on taking up something like this with a lawyer. It's not like this is affecting me in a big way, but it's a mild inconvenience. A lot of people have reached out to me to ask about it, people who I haven't spoken to in years. And I really don't like the fact that they are treating this like a spectacle, which is why I want my parents to take down their posts. Because if they don't, I'm gonna have to post my side of the story along with my aunt, and we don't want to have to do that. So far, it has been completely ineffective, and I guess eventually, we're gonna have to post about it ourselves as well. My cousin thinks that we should go for it, but I'm tired of thinking about all the drama that's going to happen later. Anyway, we just gotta do what we gotta do now. Update 3. So it's been 2 days since my last update, and like I said, because we had no other option, my aunt and I ended up posting our side of the story. Not just our side, but actually the truth, since we didn't want people believing my parents. They haven't had anything to say about it so far, but we have received a lot of supportive comments. I guess the rest of the family hasn't been as clueless as I thought. A lot of them have actually taken note of the fact that my parents have always treated my brother better than me and have been a lot more openly proud of him. I'm really happy that I'm getting all the support, because even though people have never said anything about it so far, at least I know that deep down, all of them are on my side, and that feels nice. My parents haven't had anything to say about it so far, at least not personally. But my brother has emailed me and told me that what I'm doing is seriously messed up. He said that he had been trying to keep the situation with our parents under control and had apparently almost convinced them to take down their posts, but now, they are refusing to do that because I posted my side. He said that he hadn't taken me as somebody who wanted to add fuel to the fire to create more drama, and he's right, I really didn't want to do that, but what other choice did I have? Besides, I also think I've been really unfair to me because it's our parents who started with this, not me. I'm just putting out the truth for everyone to know so that they don't end up hating me or my aunt unnecessarily. Maybe my parents would have thought about it before they went out of their way to create such a nuisance. Anyway, I don't think there's anything left for me to say to my brother anymore because he's clearly picked a side. As for my parents, I was never interested in speaking to them anyway. So if all of them decide to cut me out of their life entirely, it suits me. Update 4. Hello, guys. So it's been quite a few months since my last update, and I recently went back home to attend my cousin's wedding. I was her maid of honor, which meant that I had to be there with her for almost 1 month leading up to the wedding so I could attend everything and fulfill maid of honor duties. She told me that my parents had not been invited and neither had my brother, and it shouldn't have come as a surprise to them because obviously, after what happened a couple of months back, they should have realized that my aunt and my cousin don't want anything to do with them. They hadn't even bothered to apologize to any of us after the incident, so I don't understand why they believed that they would be invited. Not only had they expected to be invited, but they were actually offended when they realized that they hadn't received an invitation and actually showed up at my aunt's house to yell at her. My dad was furious and told her that she couldn't just cut him out of her life over something so petty, and that's pretty ironic coming from a man who literally cut his daughter out of his life. Anyway, my aunt did not take any BS from him and instantly put him in his place that day. They had a huge fight and now my parents are running their mouths off talking about us to whoever will entertain them. But it's mostly just people who want to gossip, and I don't think anybody's gonna take it seriously. I haven't heard from my brother, and it's sad that he's chosen to side with our parents, but well, that's his call to make. The wedding was beautiful and it all went smoothly. I even got to spend a lot of time with my aunt and my sister, so that was just the cherry on top. I'm back to work now, but I got a much needed break, and it's good to know that my parents haven't changed a bit, even in the past couple of months.